Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn chapter 2. Is matter around us is pure? So far, what we know about pure substances is a substance without impurity. But in chemistry, pure substance has got a different meaning. We will see what is meant by pure substance. See, in pure substance, all the constituent particles of that substance are same. For example, if you take sugar, you take 1 kg sugar or 1 spoon sugar, all particles of sugar will behave alike. Their nature will be same. Their chemical reactions will be same. Their sweetness also will be same. So a pure substance consists of only one type of particles. For example, water you drink. You have taken a tumbler of water, you are drinking water. Any level of water which you are using will have same taste, color, smell, and same appearance. All water droplets look alike. Similarly, sugar, table salt, copper sulfate, diamond, any molecule you take from a pure substance, it looks the same. Its behavior will be same. Its chemical nature will be same. That's very important. Its chemical nature will be same. Some more examples of pure substances are given. That includes your favorite pizza also. Honey, cereals, everything contain same type of particles. Now, how will we determine a substance is pure or not? For that, you are given a glass of any liquid. You are asked to check whether it is water or any other liquid. So what we do, you are not allowed to drink, you are not allowed to taste. You can do only experiments. So what we do is, we take the tumbler of water and put a thermometer inside and we will heat it. We will see the temperature at which the liquid boils. The liquid is boiling at 100 degree. We make sure that it is water, because boiling point is constant for a particular substance. Now it comes, what are the different types of pure substances? Generally, uh, uh, there are different type of pure substances. The first type is elements. Elements are the basic form of matter that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by chemical reaction. What does it mean? An element cannot be broken down into simpler substances by any chemical reaction. How the chemical reaction takes place? After chemical reaction, any new substance is formed. Element can be broken down into proton, neutron, and electron, but it cannot be broken down into another element or another useful material. So the element is a basic form of matter which cannot be broken down, and it is a basic form of matter with which all matter is made up of. Normally, elements are divided into metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Metals, you are familiar, copper, iron, gold, silver, aluminum. This all comes under the category of metals. Non-metals, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, chlorine. This all comes under the category of non-metals. Even carbon and metalloids. Metalloids having some properties between metals and non-metals. Some properties of metals, some properties of non-metals. They are neither metals nor non-metals. Okay, such elements are known as metalloids. Example, germanium and silicon. Now, there is a table known as periodic table, which you will study in the next chapter. Periodic table, all elements are arranged in a periodic table in rows and columns. There are more than 100 elements are arranged in the table. 92 elements are naturally occurring, and rest of the elements are man-made. How many elements are naturally occurring? 92. Rest are synthetic elements. We made the elements. Then most of the elements are solids, but hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine, fluorine, these all are gases at room temperature. There are 11 gas content. Yeah, 11 elements exist as gases in the periodic table. There are 2 elements exist as liquid at room temperature. Mercury and bromine. These 2 are liquids at room temperature. They are not solids because their melting point is low. Gallium and cesium has very low melting point. So they also found as liquids as temperature of the atmosphere increases. Gallium and cesium also has very low melting point. They become liquid very soon. So what we learned, how many gases? 11 in the among the elements which we identified. Which all 2 elements exist as liquid at room temperature? Mercury and bromine. Which elements have very low melting point so that it become liquid when the atmospheric temperature slightly increases? Gallium and cesium. Now we study about metals. What are metals? Metals you have studied in your school classes. Metal shows some very important properties. You are familiar with so many different metals in kitchen. Your mother cooked using iron, copper, aluminum. Steel plates and glass are everywhere in everybody's house. So we use all these. So metals, aluminum foil we use for wrapping our food items and other things. Our roti and all we wrap in aluminum foil. So metals, you can see all metals have got a shining. Every metal has got a shining. Whether it is aluminum, yeah, copper, yeah, iron, yeah, silver, yeah, gold, it has got a very good shining. And this shining is called luster. Metallic luster. What is luster? It is a shining of the metal. Most of the metals are silvery gray or golden yellow. That you can see either aluminum, it is silvery gray. Then you can see gold, it has got a golden yellow color. Silver is silvery gray. So most of the metals having a silvery gray appearance or golden yellow color. Now cooking utensils conduct heat. If it is a vessel is on the gas stove, you will go and touch the vessel, you will feel hot in your palm or it will burn your hand. Why? Because it is a good conductor of heat. Even in the electricity transmission cables, what we use at home, wherever there is an electricity connection, you can see that inside the insulation, either we use aluminum wires or copper wires because they are good conductors of electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. They can be drawn into wires. You can make thin wires using metals. This property is called a ductility. Metals are ductile, means we can make wires using metal. They are malleable. You can make fine, thin sheets. For example, Aluminium foil. You have seen aluminium foil. Aluminium is made into fine, thin sheets. That property is called malleability. So metals are ductile, means they can be drawn into wires. Metals are malleable, means we can make them into thin sheets. Now, any plate fall from your hand, make a sound, and your mother will scold you. What are you doing there? No, because any metal which is falling down, hit the floor or hit somewhere, and it make a ringing sound. So that sound is called, that is why these metals are known as sonorous. Sonorous means they make a ringing sound. And the only metal which is liquid at room temperature is mercury. What's the only metal which is liquid at room temperature? Mercury. See, it is written here. You have to go through the slides while when I teach you. See, mercury is the only metal at room temperature. Bromine is a non-metal. That is why it is sold like that. Now it comes non-metals. Non-metals usually show some of the following properties. They display variety of colors. For example, you can see sulfur. You see the diagram. Sulfur, yellow in color. Phosphorus, you can see. Carbon is black in color. Diamond. Diamond is also a non-metal. It is made up of only carbon. Then carbon. So many different things are given. Non-metals generally display variety of colors, but they don't conduct heat and electricity. If it was conducting heat and electricity, it would have been dangerous for us to use wooden articles as handle for kitchen utensils, or wooden covering for wooden panel coverings for electricity connections at home. Then they won't conduct heat and electricity. Non-metals. They are not lustrous. There is no shining. They won't make any noise. They are not malleable. If you make it into wires or try to make wires or try to make sheets, it will break. Hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine, iodine, carbon, etc. all are examples of known metals. You think about the things which you find in your daily life, which comes under metals and non-metals. Now it comes metalloids. Boron, silicon, and germanium. These have some properties of metals and some properties of non-metals. So they are known as metalloids. These all are very important questions in examination point of view. What are the characteristics of metals? What are non-metals? What are metalloids? Okay, now it comes compounds. We learned elements are the basic form of matter with which matter is made up of. For example, if we take water, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. You can see the diagram of water. Its formula is H2O. H2 is hydrogen and O is oxygen. So it is H2O. So two hydrogens and one oxygen combine together to form water. Hydrogen and oxygen are elements. Similarly, the carbon dioxide, one carbon and two oxygens. These two big like oval shaped green balls are oxygen, and this is carbon as per the diagram. Then ammonia, one hydrogen and three hydrogens combined together to form ammonia. So a compound is formed by two or more elements combined using a chemical reaction, combined by a chemical reaction, and they combine in a definite ratio. Wherever you take water in any part of the world, in any other planet, any other galaxy, either sea, river, pond, but water will contain two hydrogen and one oxygen. That's called a fixed proportion. It will be always in the ratio of 2:1 molecular ratio. 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Similarly, carbon dioxide is there everywhere in the atmosphere, but it contains 1 carbon and 2 oxygens. They are forming chemical bonds between each other, and their proportion is fixed. You cannot find anywhere carbon dioxide or C2O. No, there won't be 2 carbon and 1 oxygen. There won't be C2O2. It will be always CO2. It's called a fixed proportion. Pure water also, I told, that is what the example is highlighted here. Pure water, it is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Each molecule of water contains 2 hydrogen atoms bonded to a single oxygen atom. Water can never be H2O2. H2O2 is another compound, hydrogen peroxide. Water can never be HO2. That is also no, water can always be H2O. So it's always bonded to 2 hydrogens bonded to 1 oxygen. That too by chemical bond. That is called a fixed proportion. Now it comes mixtures. A mixture is a substance made by combining 2 or more different materials in such a way that no chemical reaction occurs. You powder iron and mix some sand with it. We call it as a mixture. There is no chemical reaction occur. There is no fixed proportion. I'll tell you one example. Listen carefully. In a paper, you have taken 100 grams of iron powder. You have taken some sand from seashore, mixed with it. अच्छे से mix कर दिया. Okay. Then there is no new substances formed. You take a magnet, take a pinch from that iron and sand mixture, take 1 pinch, keep it somewhere else, show a magnet just above that. What will happen? Iron particles will be attracted by the magnet. It will be coming to the magnet, it will be getting stuck to the magnet. What about the sand particles? That will be left out. So there is no new substance formed. You are able to separate the iron and sand mixture. If you count the iron particles, you might have got 20 particles, for example. Okay. Another pinch you take, same quantity you take, and again repeat the experiment. Show a magnet just above it. All iron pieces will come and attach to the magnet. Count the number of iron pieces. It may not be 20, it may be 18, it may be 15, it may be 25. So there is no chemical reaction taking place between iron and sand. It exists as a mixture. So we can separate them using different methods. Now, salt in water. Suppose you have salt and water. If you boil and evaporate water, once the entire water evaporates, the salt which you have added in water will be left out. The salt will be left out inside your beaker. So you can see the structure of element, compound, and mixtures. You see the the two elements are oxygen, 2 oxygens are there, O2, O2, O2. These all are elements. In a compound, oxygen combined with hydrogen, a different element. Hydrogen is a different element, oxygen is another element. These two combine together to form water, but this is a chemical reaction. You cannot pick up hydrogen from water. You have to conduct chemical reactions or methodologies to separate hydrogen. This cannot be broken back by simply heating or something. Now it is a mixture, salt and water. There is no chemical reaction between them. Salt occupies the empty space between water molecules. See, there is a lot of empty space between water molecules. Last class we have studied that, last chapter. So the salt molecules, yeah, sugar molecules occupy these empty spaces. See, salt molecules are standing in the empty space inside water. So once you heat, water will evaporate. You can collect water separately. Salt will be left out in the vessel. So mixture has got no chemical reaction between them. Now it comes type of mixtures. Mixtures are classified into two, homogeneous and heterogeneous. What is homogeneous? Homogeneous, in simple way, if we say looks alike. Example, milk. Milk we cannot say it is a mixture. Sugar in water. That's the best example. You prepare lemonade at home. So you add sugar in water, mix it uniformly. Okay. So when you taste little bit from that, after completely dissolving the sugar which is added, it will have a sweet taste. And that sweet taste will be uniform throughout the glass. Morning, your mother give you milk after adding Bonvita, yeah, sugar, whatever it is. The sugar is completely dissolved. Then milk will have same sweetness throughout. Means the sugar particles are uniformly mixed throughout the liquid. Means milk. So everywhere it will have same taste, same color, same smell. Such mixtures are known as homogeneous mixtures. A mixture in which the composition of matter is uniform throughout. Now it comes heterogeneous mixture, a mixture in which the composition is not uniform throughout. The best example which I told you is iron and sand, where even if you are mixing, the amount of iron and amount of sand is not same throughout. A mixture of chocolates are given as examples. See, different colors are there, but it is not same everywhere. If you take 5 from one corner, you may get 2 black, 1 red, and 2 brown. From another corner, you take another 5, you may get 3 red, 2 and 2 black. So it is not uniform mixed. So a mixture where the particles are not uniformly mixed. Such mixtures are known as heterogeneous mixture. Diagram will give you a clear picture. You see a heterogeneous mixture, it is not mixed uniformly, but a homogeneous mixture, it is very uniformly mixed. You see, from wherever you take a piece, you will get 2 purple and 2 green. See, any 4 you take, you will get 2 purple and 2 green. Now it comes compare compounds and mixtures. In compounds, there is a chemical reaction. Atoms combine in a fixed ratio, for example, water, what we studied. In a mixture, there is no chemical reaction. They are simply mixed together. And all molecules are not same in a mixture. But in a compound, all water molecules looks alike. All molecules are looking same. Now it comes an important question, differences between compounds and mixtures. First, it is given the composition of elements present in a compound is fixed. The composition of elements present in a compound is fixed. What does it mean? Suppose here you see, in water, wherever you take from the universe, there will be 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygens. The composition of element in a mixture is not fixed. There is no chemical reaction, so no composition. Wherever you take, like I have stated the example of iron and sand, every pinch of iron and sand mixture will have a different amount of iron and different amount of sand. Second property, water and oxygen are not same. Water is made up of oxygen. So the properties of the compounds are different from the elements from which it is made up of. What does it mean? Oxygen and hydrogen. Hydrogen we can fill in balloons and it will move. It can be used for like lifting balloons in the air. And even you can use oxygen for inhalation. We are inhaling using oxygen. Without oxygen, our life is not possible. But when you combine hydrogen and oxygen, you get water, which is a liquid, whereas hydrogen and oxygen are gases. And water can be used for drinking, but hydrogen and oxygen cannot be used for drinking. You cannot inhale water, but you can inhale oxygen. Okay. So the properties of compound is totally different from its elements. But the mixture, the property of the constituents are maintained. Iron will exist as iron. Sand will exist as sand. There is no new substance is formed. In compound, the constituents can be separated by chemical methods. In the sense, you have to pass electricity or you have to heat for quite long time so that the constituents can be separated from water. Water, even if you heat, the substances won't be getting separated. We pass electricity to decompose water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. But in mixture, using any physical method, either boiling, when you boil sugar and water, sugar will be left out in the vessel where you boil, or by using a magnet, you can separate, depending upon the nature of the mixture, you can separate it. A compound is always homogeneous in nature. Water will not be having different nature, whether we take it from the top part of the vessel or middle part of the vessel or bottom part of the vessel. The compound is always is homogeneous in nature. Mixtures can be heterogeneous or homogeneous. Mostly it is heterogeneous. It can be homogeneous also, but it is found as homogeneous as well as heterogeneous. For example, sugar in water. It is homogeneous, but it is a mixture. It is not a compound. You can evaporate and take sugar separately. This is a very important examination question. Now it comes to what are alloys? There are so many common alloys which we use. Steel, when it is mixed with carbon, when two different metals or two different substances are mixed together, metal is mixed with the carbon, you get steel. It's an alloy of iron. Iron mixed with the carbon, you get steel. Steel is used for making so many things at home. Your pan, your plates, your keys, scissors, chains, everything is made up of steel. Bronze. Bronze is a combination of copper with tin. Two metals are, after melting, we join them together in a specific composition so that you get bronze, brass, steel, etc. Steel do not contain another metal. Steel contain carbon. Carbon is a non-metal. Iron mixed with carbon, that is steel. Bronze is copper with tin. These all have definite percentage. Normally, steel contain 3 to 4% carbon. Brass is used for making diya and other things. Bronze is normally we use for door handles. Medals, bronze medal you might have heard. Then our lock, spring, this all made up of bronze. That is a mixture of copper and tin. Tin is another metal. Brass, you're very familiar. Diya is made up of brass. Bugle, trumpet, whatever it is. These all are, even we have brass water bottles, brass plates, brass glass. These all we use. Normally, puja materials all are made up of brass. Some are made up of copper also. Brass contain 70% copper and 30% zinc. That is why I told you it has a definite percentage. It is a mixture of two different elements, preferably two metals. They are known as alloys. To improve certain properties of the metals, we make alloys using that metal. Now, what we studied, it is given as a flow chart over here. It is a summary. Matter is a solid, liquid, or gas. Normally, we studied. We studied about plasma and BG. BC, I mean, Bose-Einstein condensate. Then the matter is classified into pure substance and mixtures. Pure substances are classified into elements and compounds. Mixtures are classified into homogeneous and heterogeneous. This is what we have studied now. Now we come to a solution. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. You are familiar about various type of solutions. For example, lemon mixed with water, your aerated drinks, these all comes under solutions. Normally, a solution contain either solid or liquid or gas. Normally, a solution is a liquid that contain either solid or liquid or gas. Okay, the one which is present in large quantity is called solvent, and the one the component which is present in less quantity is called solute. For example, you have taken 1 glass of water. Water is a solvent which is taken in large quantity, and you have added 1 spoon sugar. Sugar is a solute, and water is a solvent. Okay. Similarly, carbon dioxide we pass through water to make soda. Carbon dioxide is the solute. Solute is the one which is present in less quantity. And water is the solvent. Alcohol in water, we take 1 spoon of alcohol, 2 spoons of alcohol and dissolve in water. So what alcohol is the solute and water is the solvent. So what we understood, solute can be solid, liquid or gas. Solid solute we learned here is sugar. Liquid solute is alcohol and gaseous solute is carbon dioxide. Not necessary that the solvent is liquid. For example, alloy is an example of solid solutions. Brass and bronze, you have seen in last slide, you have seen what we have explained as brass contains 70% copper. The one which is present in large quantity is called solvent. So here the solvent is copper and the solute is zinc. Hope it is clear to you. Okay, so alloys are solid solutions. Gaseous solutions also exist. For example, air. Air, the most common, the most abundant element in the air is nitrogen. So the solvent is nitrogen and other gases are solute inside. So one component which is mixed in large quantity and the other component which is present in small quantity uniformly throughout. It's homogeneous. Such substances are known as Such substances are known as solutions. Hope it is clear to you. Now it comes, what are the components of a solution? A solution has solvent and solute. I told you that is clearly. Solvent is present in large amount. The blue color in the diagram, that is solvent. These are sugar molecules. They occupy the space, empty space inside the solvent. One question I have to ask, if you have taken 1 glass of water, dissolve 1 spoon of sugar. I repeat, you dissolve 1 spoon of sugar. Whether the water level will increase or not, try today. Okay? You try today after dissolving, mark it in the glass, outside the glass. You mark the water level, add 1 spoon of sugar, and try today whether the water level is increasing or not. Okay. The component of the solution that dissolved in the solvent, usually present in lesser quantity, is a solute. The large quantity, which is called a solvent. Now, solutions are different type. Sugar dissolved in water. Sugar is 1 spoon sugar in 1 glass water. Sugar is a solute, water is a solvent. Iodine in alcohol. Iodine is a solid, 1 piece of iodine, yeah, solution of iodine. We make a solution of iodine, 1 spoon of iodine in alcohol, in 50 ml of alcohol, 5 ml iodine in 50 ml alcohol. This is known as tincture of iodine. What is tincture iodine? A solution of iodine in alcohol. And iodine normally exists as solid and alcohol exists as liquid. All aerated drinks here, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whatever it is, contain carbon dioxide gas dissolved in water. So water is a solvent and carbon dioxide is the solute. Air contains nitrogen 78% and 21% oxygen and other gases also. So the solvent is nitrogen and other gases other gases are solute. This all we have already discussed. Now it comes the properties of a solution. A solution is a homogeneous mixture. Particles of solutions are very small. It is less than 10 to the power of -9 meter. 1 nanometer is 10 to the power -9 meter. Too small, you cannot see with your naked eye. You will not be able to see, you will be able to see 1 drop of water, but the molecule of water you won't be able to see. Okay, its diameter is 10 to the power of -9 meters. Okay, you cannot see them by naked eye. Because the particles are very small, they cannot scatter light. When light followed it, it cannot scatter light. Okay, so light, when you pass light through solution, its path is not visible. It will be uniformly illuminated, but you cannot see. You can see the solution. You can, suppose you are taking a light source, mobile, like a torch, and a glass of water, just to show the torch inside the water. You can see water, but you cannot see how the light is passing through. It's because the particles are too small, they cannot scatter the beam of light. The solute particles cannot be separated from mixture by the process of filtration. You take lemon, make lemon juice, remove all seeds and all solid particles which are left out after filtration. Then the lemonade contain lemon, sugar, everything. कितने भी बार you put it in the sieve, छन्नी में डाल दो. You try to filter, it will, the sugar particles, the dissolved sugar particles will not come out. You cannot filter it. You cannot filter sugar, you cannot filter lemon because it is already mixed, uniformly dissolved. Okay, so solution is stable. It will not settle. The sugar will not get separated automatically if you keep a glass of lemon juice. It won't settle. Now it comes saturated solution. Saturated solution is one which is having no more solute dissolves, which is not able to dissolve any more solute. That's what I meant to say. A saturated solution is one which cannot accommodate any more solute. For example, you are taking sugar, adding in a glass of water, dissolving it well. One more spoon you have added to the same solution, dissolve it well. Third spoon when you are adding, the entire sugar will not dissolve. It will be settling at the bottom because all vacancies inside water is finished. There are a lot of vacant spaces in water molecules. When you add sugar molecules, they occupy the vacant spaces. Now the vacant spaces totally finished. So sugar molecules cannot dissolve inside. Such solutions are known as saturated solutions. Large quantity of solutes are dissolved inside in saturated solution. See the diagram. You are adding sugar in the first case, it is dissolving. This is an unsaturated solution. In saturated solution, large quantity of sugar already dissolved. So no more sugar can dissolve. This is a saturated solution. Unsaturated solution can hold more sugar molecules. A more solute can dissolve. Saturated solution cannot hold any more solute particles because it's already full. So the sugar particles will settle at the bottom. And supersaturated one, where you slightly heat and expand the liquid so that few molecules more will dissolve. But the dissolved molecules will come back fast. It will crystallize fast. After some time, that extra dissolved molecules will be crystallized down like this. So unsaturated, which can hold more solute particles. Saturated, no more solute particles will dissolve in this. Supersaturated, after heating, the saturation level increases. Then it is called a supersaturated. Now there's a term, what is meant by concentration of solution. Concentration is the amount of solute in a solution. Amount of solute present in a solution is known as concentration. Normally we take mass or volume of the solution. We take mass of the solution or volume of the solution. So there are two ways to express concentration which is given to you. There are various ways, but you have to learn only two ways. First is mass by mass percentage. That is mass of the solute divided by mass of the solution into 100. Normal percentage calculation. Mass of the substance which is present in lesser quantity divided by total mass of the solution into 100. Suppose you have added 20 gram of any salt to 100 gram water. Mass of solute is what? 20. Mass of solution is 120. 100 plus 20. 100 gram of water plus 20 gram of solute. Solute plus solvent is solution. Okay, so 20 by 100 into 100. So what is the mass percentage? 20%. Now the second method is mass by volume percentage. In mass by volume percentage, what we take is mass of the solute into 100 upon volume of the solution. Instead of mass of the solution, we take volume of the solution. 20 gram of solute in 100 ml solution. 20 by 100 into 100. Okay, we take the volume of the solution, not solvent. That is volume percentage. See, it is summarized here. Mass percentage is calculated by comparing the mass of a single element to the total mass of the compound. Normally, percentage we calculate like that. Mass of one component by total mass into 100. So the one mass of one component is solute. Total mass is the solute plus solvent solution into 100. One question is done for you. This is a textbook question, I believe. 40 gram of salt dissolved in 320 gram of water. So mass of salt is 40 gram, solute is 40 gram, solvent is 320 gram. So the total mass is 360 gram. Solute plus solvent. So solution has got a mass 360 gram. Mass percentage, mass of the solute by mass of the solution into 100. 40 by 360 into 100. 11.1 percentage. Do this in your notebook. This question you do in your notebook. I have given 2 questions for you. So these 2 questions you have to practice today itself in your notebook. Do it and upload in your Google Classroom. This video I will upload in the Google Classroom. The second part also will be uploading. Go through the video and learn it well. Thank you, students.